Hello everyone. Welcome to the Autodesk booth. My name is Marc-Andre Ferguson. I am the editing and effects evangelist for Smoke. We are really proud to be working with extremely talented creative professionals nowadays. They're all using Smoke 2013 to create compelling and interesting products and projects and movies. Kanen Flower, the creative director of Scruffy TV, uses Smoke on various productions that you'll learn about. And I'm really happy to let him go through, let him show you how he uses Smoke in his pipeline, in his workflow, and in different productions, and how Smoke is key to making sure everything looks as great as it does. Kanen?
Hey, can everyone hear me okay? There's like a 3/4 second delay between what I say and what I hear, and so I feel like I'm in this sort of bizarre world where I haven't really quite figured it out yet. So if I sound stupid, let's just blame it on that. So I'm the creative director at Scruffy TV. We do a lot of different things. We do online content, but we do all original online content. So we do that post-show. If any of you listen to podcasts, that's one of ours. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about heroes and punks. Several things that are very near and dear to my heart. I'm a cyberpunk, superhero, comic book fan who likes science fiction. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff in this. So if you don't like, yeah, exactly. If you don't like cyberpunk, superhero comic books, you might want to leave. So Scruffy TV, we do Ruining It for Everyone. We do Scruffy Thinking. We do that post show. We do the Scruffy Show, and we're actually working on Hero Punk. And I have all these crazy slides with like, hey, that's me. Hey, that's a red. So you can see me kind of in action. You actually notice there I had hair, but not a mohawk. That's a long story. If you want to hear about it, let me know when I get off stage, and I'll tell you. So I want to tell you 10 answers to questions that I get about using Smoke, okay? I get all the time, people say, what do you do? How do you do it? Why are you using it? This and that. So before we begin, I'm kind of a social media whore. I'm on Twitter, and I twiddle the tweeters, as they say. And so I want a social media experiment with you guys. So try and have some fun. You can @Kenendose, that's me. You can @NabShow, that's this. You can @Autodesk, that's this. So let's start with, just please, show me just a little bit of like, come on, guys, really? Get off stage, you suck. See, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so the first question. So can I see an overview of the Smoke 2013 that I know you're going to talk about for the next 25 minutes? Sure, I'd love to. Let's do that. But the thing is, life is complicated. So while we talk a lot about Smoke and my use of Smoke in our workflow, we actually use a lot of different tools and a lot of different technologies. And we're in the business of creating content. We're filmmakers, we're creative people. So Smoke is a piece of our overall workflow, but it is not all of our overall workflow, and you'll hear more about that. So here is the ID4 Alien dashboard, known as Smoke, that many of you have or haven't. Who's used Smoke? Exactly. So you haven't seen this before. It's a little bit confusing at first. That's okay. I'm going to walk you through some of it. This is the media, just like you might expect. This is the effects tab, which you can go into and do different things. This is your project. This is your timeline, which should look familiar if you're familiar with NLEs. This here are your tools and your conform. You can go through and do things like import media and do things like that. This is audio. This is not by default. I just happen to have this up because I like tweaking audio a lot because I'm that kind of nerd. And that's it. So question 2. What's the difference between Smoke 2013 and previous versions? Well, there's a new and improved user interface. There's a nonlinear editor built into Smoke 2013, which was not in 2012. You can see they have something called Connect Effects, which is a very complicated node-based system that allows you to do amazing effects. A little bit difficult to get into, but once you do, you'll see a lot of power in that. And I'll talk about that in a second. Media Hub and Conform, a lot of new tools that allow you to interact with media and do conforms and offlines. And then massively lower system requirements. You may or may not believe this, but the first demo I ever did of Smoke 2013 pre-release 1, I did it at the Los Angeles Creative Pro Users Group, and I did it on a 13-inch MacBook Air. And that's not recommended, but then again, do I look like the kind of guy that would do stuff they tell me to? Question 3. What can Smoke do that other applications can't do? Well, one of the interesting things about Smoke is that you can sort of mostly edit, asterisk. I'll get back to that. You can composite, color correct, paint, mask, title. You can import and use 3D. Import and use 3D is a fascinating thing. Imagine that. Imagine you can take an FBX file and pull it into your nonlinear editor, and you can interact with it, the lights, the cameras, and all that stuff in real time. You can make a change. You can see how that change affects the thing that you've done. That's pretty impressive, right? Not a lot of tools can do that. And I just said that. So it's all in one application. That's pretty cool. And I don't know if he's here, but I'm going to give him a hard time. No one except Brian Mulligan, who speaks on this stage frequently, actually edits in Smoke. That's probably not true, but I think it's funny. So question 4. I use After Effects. Why would I use Smoke? Well, the reality is if you like After Effects, you actually might not like Smoke. And that's okay, right? After Effects is a different tool than Smoke. Smoke has nodes. If you've never used nodes, this might be a complicated thing for you. After Effects has layers. After Effects is like Photoshop with effects, right? Smoke is not like that. It's nodal. And if you're not familiar with nodes, it's a very different process. And I'll show you some of the cool things you can do with it, though. Smoke has built-in 3D. You know Autodesk, they're responsible for a lot of 3D products. And we don't mean it has 3D. We mean it has deep in its DNA 3D, where you can actually put files into it and move them around. That's a different metaphor than most systems have. And Smoke has connect effects. You can make a change in one node, have it cascade around 976,482 nodes, and see those changes apply in real time. Now, you notice I didn't say you could play back in real time, because playback in real time is a lie that vendors tell you to trick you into buying their software that does not do real-time playback. You can view things in real time. You can have real-time response. But can you really make effects and play them back in real time? No. No, I say to vendors. And yes, I'm aware of the announcement between Adobe and Maxon, two companies I have deep respect for, but it's not quite the same, is it? Having it all in one application or having it in two separate applications with dynamic linking. Question 5. I'm actually going to get to stuff that doesn't suck in a second. When would I use another NLE instead of Smoke? Autodesk says during multicam and script-based and these other advanced edits. I say you probably don't want to. That's okay. But what you can do with it, which is really cool, is you can take Final Cut Pro 10 XML, you can take regular XML, and you can take AAFs. You can take a full edit and import those into the Smoke timeline, and then you've got all of your assets right there in a timeline that you can apply effects for. So what we do, and I'll get to in a second, is we use Avid or Premiere, and we export as an AAF, and then we pull that into Smoke, and then we have one timeline that we can move around with all of our effects in it. Pretty slick, right? And I say Smoke could theoretically replace Final Cut, and I mean 7 as an NLE. I doubt it could replace Avid or Premiere Pro right now as an NLE. It's a very serviceable tool for what it does. It does editing and finishing. It's probably not going to be your primary NLE right now. But the way that it integrates with AAF is really slick. All right, question 6. What's a Smoke workflow look like? How would I use it? Well, for Hero Punk, which is this dystopian cyberpunk superhero film that we shot, we started in Avid Symphony, and then we did a rough cut and exported a scene to AAF. We pulled that AAF into Smoke. We keyed it, we comped it, we did basic color correction, and then we put audio in a grown-up tool that does audio. Smoke does a lot of great audio. Obviously, you don't want to edit audio in your NLE. You guys are grown-ups, professionals. You don't do that. So what's question 7? What can it do that other tools can't? Well, it's really good at some things, right? It's like everything in this toolbox that we use, right? It can do modular keys. It can do basic effects. It can do amazingly spectacular work with connect effects. You can import 3D objects. You can actually grab Photoshop files and 3D files. You can pull them in as a series of nodes. You can connect them to a master node. Each object inside of the Photoshop file, each layer, if you will, is a separate node that can be manipulated on its own or as a node grouping, which is pretty slick, this idea that I can move things around, or I can have this little guy lay over there, and move around independently. And actually, if I have time, remind me to show you the intro that I did, which is pretty slick for the stuff we're doing here at the show, where nodes explode in layers and stuff. So once you get it, it's awesome. Before that, you'll want to punch a dolphin in the face. Sorry, I call it like I see it. Plus those dolphins. So can you learn me some smoke so I can talk intelligently about why I hate it so much? I would love to do that for you. That's why I'm here. I want to make you look smarter when you complain about a tool you've never used. Final Cut Pro sucks, even though I've never used it. So let me tell you about the smoke learning curve before I do that. Here's what smoke looks like. You download the trial. Hey, this looks pretty cool. I like this. Then what happens? Holy crap, setup. Then you're like, no, okay, I got that. I can edit some ProRes. ProRes natively edits in smoke. That's pretty slick. Whoa, what is this access node thing? Confused again. You get that. Then you start doing keying and comping. You open Connect Effects, aka real node. Not too bad. Then there's the action node, which I call the rat bastard. It's a node inside of a node. Then you can edit something that's not ProRes. Smoke loves native ProRes. If you have native ProRes with a camera that shoots it, such as the camera that we're shooting interviews on right now, which is the Blackmagic Cinema camera, Smoke loves it deeply and profoundly in ways that I shan't talk about. But non-ProRes is a little more difficult. And then if you do anything in 3D, the difficulty goes up and hits the ceiling and knocks things down on you. Like everything 3D, right? Element 3D, does anyone use that? Element 3D from Video Copilot? Amazing piece of software. What did it do? It absolutely proved the 3D is really effing hard. Right? So, I heard you shot something on the Blackmagic Cinema camera. Why, yes, you did. Who have you been talking to? Okay, we shot a feature film on the Blackmagic Cinema camera. Okay? We shot in ProRes 422, 10-bit. We shot on an 1,100 square foot green screen. We had 85 people in the cast. We had about 35 in the crew. We shot on 2 of the Blackmagic Cinema cameras. We shot this feature film in January on 2 Blackmagic Cinema cameras. I like to joke that at the time we had a full 25% of the working Blackmagic Cinema cameras in the US. Here's what our workflow looked like. We had 2 of these guys shooting to ProRes on SSD cards. We shot on an external Tascam recorder, which Kristen actually has in her hands right now. We copied all of this stuff to these 1 terabyte Seagate drives. Have you seen these little things where it's USB 3 and you can pop that off and pop in, you can do FireWire 800 or pop that off and pop on Thunderbolt? It's a $79 1 terabyte drive that has a back end that you can pop on and off. We send those around because we don't know what format people are going to be in. I pop it onto a Thunderbolt, copy it over, give it to you as USB 3. You might have a FireWire 800. It all works. Anyway, we give this to artists around the world who work with Scruffy TV. They edit in one of these 2 products, which you may or may not have seen before. They also use this little guy. First person to tell me what this is. Pluralize? That's right, because we're grown-ups and we don't know how to use a slate. No, that's not true. We know how to use a slate, but we don't know how to sync. Then we export AAFs and we export project files to Dropbox. Like I say, we have people all over the world editing this stuff in different formats. So we have AAFs and we have Premiere project files in Dropbox. Then that comes out to this guy, Smoke. Although this is the old logo. And I'm sorry it doesn't look like the new origami one. But I did this slide right before they announced it, like 5 minutes ago, so I haven't had time to update it. So we do AAF out of Dropbox. And then we use these other tools, Cinema 4D, Imagineer Systems Mocha Pro, After Effects, Red Giant, right? Because there's no such thing as one tool in your arsenal. If you're creative, you should stop thinking about technology and start thinking about telling stories. And stories aren't about the technology. They're about the creative intent that you have, right? So we use everything, right? Because everyone uses everything, because that's how the world is. Then we go out to H.264 for review. Then we have this guy like Paul Congdon, who's really awesome, who lives in Australia, who his Jedi Vandal, if you want to tweet him and tell him, hey, I saw your goofy-ass selfie on our screen. And that's Hero Punk in the background with him in Australia. I think this is cool. I'm old, so to me, like the fact that somebody's in another country editing my stuff is pretty slick. Oh, what's that? Oh, bummer. Can we get some audio back there? I had the little bink sound, and it didn't make it. Now I'm sad. So question 11. Virtual team, Dropbox, global team, seriously, WTF, plus, plus, exclamation 1, right? Here's a WTF. 25 people around the world. It's actually more than that now. Pays pretty much. If anyone does hacker speak, you read that as, okay, good. I'd like to pay more. I can't yet. But Steve, I thought for a long time people were paid terribly, and then I realized that the median wage of an editor in the United States who works full-time as an editor is $19.68. If you listen to my show, we had a conversation called The Wages of Post where we talked about that. $19.68 for a working editor in the US. By that standard, you could buy a Ferrari on what we pay, but I'd like to pay better. We have a post coordinator named Carolyn Stampine. She used to be the post coordinator for the Pix Corps. She's really cool. We have editors, compositors, VFX artists, colorists, and audio people. Everyone gets, ready for this, when you come on board, not only paid, which is also shocking, you get to use everything because we own our content on your reel. And just for being a part of the team, you get Red Giant, Avid Symphony, Creative Cloud, Maxon Cinema 4D, Imagineer Systems Mocha. The list goes on and on and on. Just for being a part of the team. Why? I love you, and these guys are awesome at supporting virtual teams like ours. So I want to tell you a little bit about a couple projects we've done, just so you don't think I'm completely full of crap. We shot a thing called The Dark Knight Descends for 5K. We did it 100% on this really crappy little green screen about 10 feet wide. It was sponsored by Imagineer Systems. It's had a few views, I'll get to that. Okay? Best of all, it's thinky, and it's not some fart joke or cat video. And people watched it, which tells me there are actually people. So I'm my audience. I'm the guy that's like, I want to watch a thinky superhero comic book movie about the future and dystopian and zombies and, name it all. I want to watch it. Turns out there's a lot of me out there, which is really cool. Although I don't know if I'd get along with myself if I cloned me. Anyway, Dark Knight Descends.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Scruffy Show.
We shot this
As you may have noticed, we're
handheld.
doing a lot more sketches these days. Like
Imagineer Systems Mocha tracked it all. This is all shot on green screen.
And
Okay.
Burn Novice, which was
And you
mostly
might be
written
saying to
by Zach
yourself
Arnold.
right now, okay, yeah,
You may
sure,
not
it's all
think
shot on green screen. Of course it is. I can tell. It looks like green screen. How about this? Let me show you the cave. This was shot on green screen. Okay? We comped this, and we shot it on a Kanen 7D and a T3i. None of this is real except the people.
Longer.
How did I eat during this?
We have backgrounds that were created in different 3D tools. We have shadows casting on those 3D objects. We have 3D here. We have a few problems, because you do, because we're all learning. But I just thought you might get a kick out of that. Shot on green
Was
screen.
said to have been created by the great
Created by a
rival
virtual team
himself.
around the world. Okay. So, we put that on YouTube. It's the first thing we ever put on YouTube. Before that, we were doing iTunes and all these other things. First thing we ever put on YouTube. We were like, oh, okay, this is what people are doing, putting on YouTube. We've had it on Vimeo and stuff like that before. So, on February, 16th, 2013, we put it on YouTube. I checked this right before I came to the conference. On YouTube alone, it had 853,597 views. If you are an independent content creator and you are not right now to yourself saying hell yeah and amen and all those other things, you should be, because this is beautiful for me. That shows me that I can create content that goes direct to my fans and bypass a lot of the problems that you would normally expect. And I can use these tools to do these kind of things. So I'm excited about it. I even let people remix the video. Somebody did a kind of rap thing with it. It was kind of weird. We were also doing something called Ferociously Cute. It's a spoof on the show Ted, the movie Ted. It's about a teddy bear that comes to life, and when it goes through maturity, it grows up and kills everyone in the family. I want to show you the opening scene. This is before comping and all that. So I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the kind of things we do. I get to wake up every day and do stuff like this. Establishing shots. Show of hands who's seen the movie Ted. So this should look familiar as a joke.
So I'm with this girl, right?
So we're
She's
gonna
a real
comp
grenade.
in-
I
we're
mean,
gonna comp
I know
in a
Forrest
3D bear
Whitaker,
right
but,
there.
You know, I should be able to get down with a little less skink, right?
So we're doing something called Burn Novice. I'm friends with Zach Arnold, the editor of Burn Notice, and I thought it'd be funny to mess with him. So we thought we'd do something about an incompetent spy. So we shot this Mikkel Western intro. Paul Del Vecchio actually directed this, but you can see how it's literally just the story of Mikkel Western, an incompetent spy. It's a little slapsticky, but that's okay. I like slapstick sometimes. We're doing a spoof on Fight Club called Flight Club, which is about these people who fight and fly at the same time. Here's a comp done by Weston Woodbury. Is he in the, there he is. This guy is amazing. If you guys need any 3D, any comping, anything, this guy is spectacular. So I shot some stuff while I was in a Virgin flight on my iPhone, okay? And he comped in footage that we shot on the green screen of people flying around outside the airplane and fighting. And I actually think I shot it during the day. So this is this scene in After Effects. I want to show you his comp. And this isn't even all of it, but I just want to see, I want to watch your faces. Ready? Spectacular. That's not even all of it. That's only the stuff that could fit on screen. And you might say to yourself, well, that's interesting, but let me show you the results that we get with tools like that.
Hey, have I seen you before?
You know that one perfect moment where the sun hits just the right place in the sky? Where everything seems to connect and disconnect all at once?
No, not really.
Pretty slick, right? That was the most horrifying green screen you've probably ever seen with Sky Talone in the frame. It was ridiculous. Here's what it looks like when we actually start comping it together. Remember, none of this is real except the actors. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to actually skip ahead and show you this one scene, just because I think it's so funny. Right here.
About to get really sober.
This is when they first learn that they can fly.
What the fetching fetch?
Oh, I must be seriously wasted.
Pretty cool, right?
So just, you know, we get to have fun with this stuff. I like it. We're doing something original called the Z Event, which is Sliders meets Night of the Living Dead. It's about a group of hyper-intelligent zombies that have to eat brains to stay smart, and they run out of brains to eat on their home world, so they build a device to travel to our world so they can eat our brains and stay smart. Otherwise, they revert back to their zombie roots, the Z Event. So I want to show you a few things from that. This is an intro that we threw together. We may or may not have done this in Smoke. Look, I actually used the word. So I thought you might find it kind of cool, but I also thought I'd use this as an example to show how audio and video actually collide to make something a lot better. So this is the same thing with sound by Ryan Jacoby. Makes a big difference, right?
Rolling.
This is the Z Event. We shot it. It looked like this. I kid you not.
Scene 6, take
You gotta
one.
love this high-tech green screen that we used right here. Aren't you impressed? I don't know what we were thinking. We did some makeup. You can see the back of his head's blown off. He is a zombie after all. This is Zombie Helper. I want to show you what that looks like when we comp it together.
I have seen the next one.
The background is the objects from Element 3D Metropolitan Pack. Do you guys know that from Video Copilot?
Are you sure?
We threw that in and did a 3D comp and then just stressed them. So we're also doing Hero Punk. It's the $100,000 superhero cyberpunk feature film. I don't believe that you don't believe me, whatever. We made a bunch of thoughts because we wanted to do, we did a bunch of things during pre-production because we knew that we were only going to shoot this for $100,000. So the first thing we did is we knew that we could not, it's actually 90%. We knew we could not shoot this in practical locations with the size of the crew that we had. So we decided to shoot a bunch of it on green screen. As you can see, we had a little bit of familiarity with green screen. We did days, not weeks of shooting time. We saved some money there. We decided to fix it in pre instead of fixing it in post, and solve a lot of the problems before we shot, which was really interesting. And that way we could do this thing for $100,000. I put in $60,000 of my own money, shot most of it, and then I launched a Kickstarter campaign to ask the community for some of the rest. So it's basically 60-40. Putting my money where my mouth is. This is a logo for it. If you're into comic books and superheroes, you're probably drooling at this point, like I was. Maggie McPhee, who drew the original comic book Tank Girl, actually worked on this. So anyway, Tank Girl on Twitter. We got some press, which was really cool because we shot the first feature film on the Blackmagic Cinema camera, which I mentioned. And I also mentioned we had 20% of the working Blackmagic Cinema cameras at that time. And we shot on 2 of them, which looked more like this, to be honest with you. This is a shot from Hero Punk, shot in the Blackmagic. This is Malcolm DeVoe. He's one of the characters. This is cinematographer Paul Telvecchio shooting a scene. And now, what's here interesting about this is being 105 years old and nearly dead like I am. I'm not used to sets like this. This is all new to me. So here's what's funny. This is the whole shoot, and there's the camera. That is unbelievable. It's like this tiny little thing in the middle of a bunch of other stuff. It just gave us such an amazing opportunity. This is Lane. These are actual shots, not production stills that we did, but shots we just lifted out of the timeline. Amazing, right? This is Paul Delvecchio again. He's on rails. This is a drone modeled in 3D. This is the same drone in attack mode. This is the South San Francisco quarantine zone, a series of distressed buildings that we built in 3D for the purpose of the show. This is a hover bike. I know what you're thinking. That's terrible. Where's the ambient occlusion? Where's the reflection? Where's the... Well, let me just show it to you. Pretty slick, right? This is an actual shot. You also notice frizzy hair, crappy tracking markers, moving the camera like a maniac. We're insane. That's true. If you got this shot from one of your clients, would you punch them in the face? Seriously? Yeah. You'd be like, what the hell? I can't even track that. Her hair is frizzy. This is a shot. It's a before. You remember I showed you that scene with Paul Delvecchio in the camera? This is the actual shot once we cut it together. Looks pretty slick, right? It's still blown out of... We could not get a goddamn tracking marker in focus. I don't know what our problem was. The tracking markers in this, we did this really interesting thing. If you guys shoot green screen, you may or may not know about this. We did triangles every 3 feet. So triangle, 3 feet, triangle, 3 feet, triangle, 3 feet. So it's a square with triangles on the corners. Inside of that, we had L's and pluses and X's and lines as just basically confetti. Why did we do that? Because the triangles generate the tracking markers that you need to track the scene, and the other confetti generates the parallax that you need so that when you move the camera around in 3D space, what you can do is you can actually recognize a 3D environment. So you can actually take a 3D model and lock it to the parallax of the tracking markers, and you can get a sense of where the camera is, where the lens is, how it all moves around. So you're not sitting there trying to track a 2D object inside a 3D space. So what I want to show you now is a couple things. This is actually us pulling it up in smoke. You can see we started to do some really okay 2D tracking just to get a sense of it. This is us actually pulling a key on that horrifyingly bad footage. This was done by Brian Mulligan, who's actually the only guy who edits smoke. I mentioned that earlier. This is a tree of Connect effects. I just thought I'd show it to you to give you a sense of what nodes look like instead of layers if you're not familiar with them. I mean, this is, you know, nodes, layers, it's you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as they say. It's really about personal preference. But I've found that one really nice thing about this is if I can make a change and it just cascades along in a way that doesn't impact everything and doesn't require a lot of reworking or re-rendering on my part. So this is that same scene comped. Check it out. Not a great depth of field. The camera is shaky as hell all over the place. Again, if you got this shot from your client, you'd punch them in the face. But I just thought I'd show you like a quick comp to show you the kind of stuff we could do on something that's, you know, legitimately not the shot that you would want at the very beginning. All right? So that's Hero Punk. It's at heropunk.com. I think the Kickstarter's still going if you want to contribute. Or if you just want to like us on Facebook and say, that guy was kind of insane, he's fun. Or you could, I wish you could dislike people on Facebook. Does anyone else wish you could do that? So that's my presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Kanen. If you want to find out more about what Kanen does, you can check out some of the sites that he talked about.